baby gorilla swept away by raging river. What the mother did next changed everything. The sky above the sanctuary is a bruised, suffocating purple, heavy with the acidic scent of impending lightning and the damp, metallic promise of a violent storm. Rain slashes sideways, biting like cold, unforgiving needles against the dense, emerald canopy of the jungle. The river, usually a lazy, sun-dappled ribbon of glass, has transformed into a raging, frothing monster of churning mud and splintered wood. The deafening roar of the water swallows the familiar calls of the forest, but it cannot silence the visceral, gut-wrenching scream of a mother. Kala, a magnificent western lowland gorilla, stands at the treacherous edge of the slick, dissolving bank. Her coarse, midnight black fur is plastered to her shivering, muscular frame. Her infant Kibo has just been torn from her grasp by a sudden, violent surge of a flash flood. Every evolutionary instinct inscribed deep within Gorilla Dina screams at her to flee the water. They are dense, incredibly heavy creatures, built for the solid grounding of the forest floor, not the chaotic aquatic abyss. For a silverback or a mother, deep water is a near-certain graveyard. Yet Kala does the unthinkable. Her dark, expressive eyes widen with a terror so profound it seems to crack the very air around her. She inhales the sharp, musky tang of pure adrenaline and steps directly into the freezing, violent current. She lets the dark, rushing water rise past her waist, her heavy chest, and finally to her chin, anchoring herself in the torrent when every rule of nature dictates she should run. Before we dive deeper into this harrowing journey of maternal sacrifice and explore the astonishing, hidden depths of animal emotion, we warmly invite you to become part of our storytelling family. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, as your support allows us to continue bringing you these breathtaking, true stories of the natural world. Down in the comments below, share with us where you are watching from today and what time it is in your corner of the globe. We love seeing how far these stories travel and connecting with our beautiful global community. To truly understand the sheer gravity-defying impossibility of Kala's actions, one must first feel the tranquil rhythm of her world before the storm shattered it. The sanctuary, nestled deep within the verdant heart of a protected valley, was a paradise of sensory abundance. Mornings here tasted of sweet, overripe figs and the rich, earthy musk of damp loam baking under the equatorial sun. The light filtered through the ancient, towering mahogany trees in thick golden shafts, painting sunset-colored hues on Kala's broad shoulders as she sat peacefully in the dew-kissed grass. Kibo, mere months old, was a creature of boundless, tumbling joy. His fur was a shock of downy, weightless softness against the leathery, calloused warmth of his mother's immense hands. Their bond was a physical, almost magnetic force of nature. Keepers often marveled at the silent, intricate language they shared. A subtle shift in Kala's amber gaze, a low, rumbling hum vibrating deep within her chest like distant thunder, and Kibo would instantly abandon his play to return to the protective, shadowy cavern of her embrace. It was a world governed by the gentle rustle of leaves, the sweet scent of crushed wild celery, and the absolute, unshakable trust between mother and child. Kala was the quiet matriarch of her own universe, her every heartbeat synchronized perfectly with the tiny, fluttering pulse of her infant. But nature is a capricious artist, and in a matter of agonizing minutes, the vibrant canvas of their lives was painted in the harsh, slate-gray tones of disaster. The flash flood arrived without mercy or warning, a towering wall of roaring brown water smelling violently of uprooted clay and crushed, pulverized stone. When Kibo slipped down the mud-slicked bank, the current claimed him with terrifying, blinding speed. Now, standing waist-deep in the churning vortex, Kala's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The sanctuary's dedicated veterinary team and lead keepers stood helpless on the elevated observation deck, their faces pale beneath the harsh, blinding glare of emergency halogen spotlights cutting through the torrential downpour. The rain tasted of salt and desperation. Through the magnified lenses of their binoculars, they watched as Kala's physical state plummeted toward the point of no return. The icy, relentless water was sapping her core temperature. Her usually robust, unshakable frame was trembling violently, her movements growing sluggish and desperately uncoordinated. Keepers debated darting her with tranquilizers, a desperate measure to save the mother. But the risk of her drowning unconscious in the floodwaters was an impossible gamble. The clinical signs of profound hypothermia and systemic shock were unmistakable. Her lips were losing their rich dark pigment, turning a ghostly bluish-gray, and her breathing was reduced to ragged, shallow gasps visible as white puffs in the freezing mist. The keepers felt the acidic, suffocating scent of failure burning the back of their throats. Kibo was nowhere to be seen, presumed lost to the crushing depths, and Kala was willingly surrendering her own life to the icy river in a futile, heartbreaking vigil. Yet, beneath the chaotic, churning surface of the tragedy, a miraculous, hidden truth was unfolding. A truth that would completely shatter and reshape the keeper's understanding of primate intellect and devotion. Kala was not simply standing blindly in the water waiting to die, paralyzed by grief. As the lead veterinarian adjusted a highly sensitive thermal imaging scope, peering desperately through the thick curtain of relentless rain, he noticed something utterly astonishing. Kala's massive arms were rigidly submerged, her hands gripping a tangled, unyielding mass of thick, hollow bamboo roots that extended into the darkest, most violent part of the eddy. She wasn't fighting the current to move forward. She was acting as a living, breathing breakwater. The thermal camera revealed a tiny, faint, flickering pocket of heat trapped beneath the dense root system, directly behind the shield of her broad, shivering back. Kibo hadn't been washed entirely downriver. He was snagged in the submerged, fibrous roots, trapped in a minuscule, precarious air pocket. Kala had somehow calculated the exact angle and devastating hydraulic pressure of the rushing water. By deliberately inserting her own massive body into the absolute strongest part of the current, she was physically deflecting the crushing force of the river away from the fragile root cage holding her baby. She was enduring the freezing torment, swallowing the muddy, debris-filled water, and deliberately absorbing the lethal kinetic energy of the river to keep that tiny air pocket from collapsing under the flood's weight. It was an act of profound, calculated physics driven entirely by the unfathomable, agonizing depths of a mother's love. Armed with this breathtaking revelation, the rescue team sprang into immediate, fiercely coordinated action. Wading into the treacherous, muddy shallows with heavy ropes and safety harnesses, the smell of wet, industrial nylon and human sweat mingling with the river's thick, earthy mud, they formed a desperate human chain. As they finally reached the submerged roots, Kala, recognizing the familiar, trusted faces of her lifelong caretakers, did not bare her teeth or attack in defense. She held her agonizing, muscle-tearing pose, her body screaming with lactic acid and numbing cold, her eyes locking on to the lead keeper with a desperate, pleading, intensely human intelligence. With agonizing care, a diver reached blindly beneath the tangled vines, his hands finally brushing against the silken, freezing fur of the tiny infant. As Kibo was gently pulled from the watery trap, sputtering and coughing up mouthfuls of muddy water, Kala finally let go of her subterranean anchor. She collapsed onto the slick, muddy bank, a mountain of exhausted, violently shivering muscle. The moment Kibo was placed against her trembling chest, the frantic, chaotic energy of the storm seemed to instantly evaporate. The healing began in the profound, electric silence of their physical reconnection. Kala curled her massive, dripping body tightly around him, creating an impenetrable cocoon of immense, radiating warmth. The keepers watched in awe, tears freely mixing with the cold rain on their faces, as the two engaged in a desperate, beautiful, life-saving rhythm. It was the rhythm of synchronized breathing. As Kala's deep, resonant lungs expanded, filling with the damp jungle air, Kibo's tiny chest rose perfectly in tandem with hers. In and out. In and out. The sharp, metallic scent of terror slowly dissipated into the humid night, replaced by the warm, musky, familiar smell of safety, milk, and returning life. The rigid, agonizing tension melted from Kala's spine, her heavy eyelids softly closing as she felt the steady, rapid, beautiful returning heartbeat of her child drumming against her own. This extraordinary, heart-stopping event leaves us standing at the precipice of a profound philosophical realization. Humanity so often looks at the animal kingdom through a narrow, clinical lens of basic survival and raw instinct. We tell ourselves that biology is merely a ruthless, unfeeling mathematics of self-preservation and genetic continuation. Yet, Kala's agonizing choice to step into the abyss, to violently defy every single ounce of her evolutionary programming, shatters this arrogant assumption into dust. It forces us to confront the undeniable, beautifully complex reality of an emotional depth that mirrors, and perhaps even surpasses, our own human capacity for devotion. It speaks to a powerful sixth sense of love, an intuitive, boundless empathy that calculates the deadly physics of a raging river not with the analytical brain, but with the fiercely protective heart. This was not mere, blind instinct. This was conscious, deliberate, agonizing sacrifice. It is a stunning testament to the universal language of the soul, a language spoken perfectly in the silent, trembling grip of a mother willing to hold back the very tide for her child. When we are privileged enough to witness such breathtaking acts of devotion, we are deeply reminded that the capacity for profound, self-sacrificing love is not a uniquely human trait, but a sacred, shared inheritance of all sentient life, woven intricately into the very fabric of the natural world. As the heavy storm clouds finally begin to part, allowing the gentle, golden, healing warmth of the sun to return to the battered sanctuary, we are left to silently ponder the magnificent, unspoken miracles that happen in the wild every single day. The harrowing story of Kala and Kibo stands as a towering beacon of hope, a poignant reminder that even in the face of the most overwhelming, destructive, and terrifying forces of nature, love remains the ultimate, unbreakable anchor. If this incredible journey of maternal sacrifice and survival touched your heart today, please leave a warm like on this video. Share it with someone who deeply appreciates the profound emotional lives of animals, and subscribe to our channel for more breathtaking emotional explorations of the natural world. Now, we turn the spotlight to you, our wonderful and observant community. Have you ever personally witnessed an animal display a moment of undeniable intuition, fierce protection, or deep empathy that fundamentally changed the way you view them? Share your beautiful personal stories in the comments below. And until next time, Keep your eyes open and your hearts receptive to the wild, unspoken wonders of our world.